Well, hello there, humans of these earthlings, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're lucky enough to be doing it too. How you doing? I'm Bushka on Blitz. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, stick around. We're going to have some fun together in the old town tonight. This is the Caernarvon. Now, I've got 3 games for you today. They are 3 very, very different tanks, yet they are all called heavy tanks, and it goes a long way towards showing why I find this game so engaging and interesting, in that those 3 tanks have very, very few similarities outside of their designation as a heavy tank. And what is a heavy tank really, apart from someone that's eaten a whole lot of pies and put some tracks on it? This is the Caernarvon. The second tank will be AMX 5100, and the third tank will be a very Russian tier 10, the IS-4. They are all glaringly different, but beautiful tanks in their own right. Now, we're going to talk about this tank. People say, but the gun's only 190 alpha, bro. How can you like the Caernarvon so much? Well, the rate of fire is pretty freaking good. And because the rate of fire is so good, you can output massive amounts of damage. Turn that thing off. Seriously. Sit down. That's enough. Because the rate of fire is so good and you have such good DPM, and your gun is so deadly accurate, like deadly accurate, it's probably the best gun in its tier, and that's on a heavy tank, you can do all kinds of nasty stuff, particularly in brawls, and that's one of the situations I'm going to show you in this tank. Now, why do I think it's a good tank for a brawl? Traditionally at tier 8, your heavy tanks are going to be pretty derpy with their guns. Your T-34s, well, that's not that derpy, but it's a big slow-firing thing. The IS-3s, the IS-3 Defenders, the IS-5s, the IS-2SH, all those IS-y things, the Glacials, you know, they're very big, slow-moving, high aim time guns. Now, they work best up close, but at the same time, they're not precise and pinpoint kind of things. You can't snap shots off with them all the time and be successful. Well, you can with the Caernarvon. And although it doesn't have incredible mobility, it's got enough mobility to get the job done. It's also got a very, very good armor profile that it does not get credit for. A tank that you might not really relate this tank to, but which I find the armor to be of a similar nature, is the T-32. T-32 actually has a very strong upper glacis for its tier. It doesn't get any credit for it whatsoever, but it can really flummox a lot of medium tanks and lower tier tanks and bounce a lot of shots and force them to fire AP at its upper glacis. The Caernarvon actually has a lot stronger upper glacis than people realise as well, and both those tanks have good turrets. Now, I love this tank because I'm a big fan of good guns and the ability to use gun depression, and if you take it out on hull down areas like the flank here, for instance, of Dynasty Pearl, or the dunes on Desert Sands and Oasis Palms, these are the places where the tank can make a lot of good value for money decisions. So you want to be able to take a tank like the Caernarvon that has an excellent gun, gun depression, and a modicum of armor to situations where it can be good. Now, coming up, I'm going to show you how the Caernarvon can do a little bit of brawling. We're going to have to engage the carry protocol, though, because the team is getting absolutely shagged. Press the button, please, humans. There we go. Initiate the carry protocol, and we're getting stuck in. Now, this Tiger P is aimed up on the Jag Panther 2 down there because it is a ratings game, and people tend to play with some degree of self-awareness. But for all that, this Tiger P, he is grist to the mill. We are on NA, by the way, and we are calibrating. Now, calibrating was not the fun experience I thought it would be. Calibrating required a huge, massive, monumental amount of carry. This is one game on NA. I had 3 games that I got masteries in the Caernarvon while calibrating, and 2 of them were over 4,000 damage. So that should give you some kind of indication to just how much carry was required to get a win on NA. And in fact, how much carry was required to get a win, I'm not sure. Because this, ladies and girls, boys and girls, germs, this was not a win. This was a loss. I capped B, but so did they, twice. And unfortunately, they were the last ones to do it. And despite, look at the gun on this thing singing. Look at it sing. It absolutely builds a case for being the best gun in its tier. And its ability to hit those kind of shots with very, very little lead time was what makes the tank such a frustrating and deadly tank to brawl with. So that's the Caernarvon, and that's that playstyle I'm talking about there. Excellent gun, excellent penetration numbers, very, very good aim time, the reasonable amount of armor. So that's one style of gameplay. And we've got a mastery there. We've got 4,555 damage on a team that was calibrating. And calibration, what an absolute lotto fest that is. So let's have a look now at the AMX 5100. Now, before you saw that we had a fairly bulky tank with a reasonable amount of hit points, a decent armor profile, in fact, a very good armor profile if you know how to use it, and an outstanding weapon. This time we have a super quick heavy with next to no armor, an outstanding burst damage potential, and a whole lot going for it. And we're in a tier 9 game. So the armor is really, we've probably got the worst armor profile in the game outside of our light tanks, and that is a scary thought. And we've also got an AFK ST1 at the back who is a muppet and is going to be a cause of much consternation for me as the game progresses. So we've seen how we play the Caernarvon. Now what about with this tank? Well, you've got to get out of the headspace that this is a heavy tank in anything but name only. The only reason you play this tank is if you have the ability to play good peek-a-boom tank warfare. What do I mean by that? You're going to see plenty of opportunities for me to lose hit points here, but what I do is really value my hit point pool and not give it up unless I feel like I can get a shot off and they're not going to get a shot back. Now, I'm not going to hide at the back to do that. I'm going to move all over the battlefield to do it, in fact. And it's really important that you make use of the mobility of this tank, because that's all you've got going for you. You've got a filthy big burst damage, i.e. 310 alpha every single shot, and you don't have any armor. So what are you going to do? You've got to get your mobility working. You've got to get out on the flanks. You've got to support your mediums. You've got to make the most of your ability to get into the sides of other tanks, like that Lurva. And then when I realise that's going to become a very uncomfortable spot, I shuffle off. Now, every 3 seconds you can fire a shot off. That means that in 6 seconds you can do 930 alpha damage. That's a fairly decent amount. Hey, for 6 seconds, that's the kind of burst that you'd love to have on most of your Russian heavy tanks. But you don't. On those tanks, you've got to deal with big 400 derp moments, followed by a long period of inactivity, and then another 400 derp moment. And despite this, the playstyles are still alarmingly similar. You can see I've waited for a full reload on a clip, and then I'm going to come out, and I'm going to put my damage into this Centurion, get rid of him, and then pull back and do a complete reload. And do you know what tank does exactly that? An IS-3, or an IS-5, or an IS-2SH. That is the exact playstyle you have on one of those tanks, only instead of waiting for an entire clip, you just do the burst. Now, it would be lovely, indeed it would be absolutely beneficial to have a real ST1 in this game. If we have a real ST1 in this game, I've got a sneaking suspicion we may well have won it. And that's letting the cat out of the bag, I know, but there you go. You can see over there our ST1 is trying to do damage by sitting still and hoping people will run into him, which is a canny strat for a high super unicum AFKer like this bloke, but unfortunately it doesn't quite work out that way. Now, the gun has been nothing but heaven sent for us, but I can't help it. I've got to do one of those famous Bushka no-scopes, and then I get a really bad bit of RNG, and we finally take him out, but that's left us wide open to this T95, and we take a real drubbing there. That's 600 damage. Would be really nice to have had those hit points at the end, and that's one mistake. And you can see with tanks like this, with tanks that are all about the mobility, that one mistake is really where you get into trouble. You need to be able to have a full hit point pool at the end of the game, and you get that by being sensible with your hit points and not taking silly no-look, no-scope shots like I did with that IS-3, and ensuring that you actually get the job done. Because now I'm stuck between a super hard place and a big bloody rock. The super hard place is the T95, and the big bloody rock is at Yag Tiger, and he tracks me as I try and go past, which again stops me from getting the shots into that T95, and he gets me just before I go around the corner. But for all that, a heroic performance from a tank with no armor profile whatsoever. And you can see again, different tank to the Caernarvon, but 4,700 damage. Excellent outcome for a 5,100 dealing with an AFK ST1 at the back. And I'd love to have that IS-3 shot back. I mean, being a muppet, I can't tell you, if you've watched the streams, you would know exactly how many times I've blown that one. So let's finish it with an IS-4. This, again, is a very, very different tank. despite its really crazy mobility, you get to over 40 kilometers an hour pretty quickly. It's very much a super heavy. It's got massive amounts of side armor. It's got massive amounts of frontal armor, and it's got the ability to angle and side scrape, over angle in fact, so that you can draw shots out of the enemy. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. And this is, again, how can you not love a mobile game that has this much diversity and nuance to it? It really is an interesting kind of take to have three such different heavy tanks. Now, the real key with this is offensively side scraping. This tank is great at offensively side scraping. What do I mean by that? Oh, hang on. Let's put up the force field. There we go. The force field goes up, and we're now going to start bouncing shots IS-4 style. Now, I'm going to remove the visibility of the force field, but trust me, it's always there. Look at the angle I'm coming out at. That's offensively side scraping. What I'm doing is I'm drawing shots from these guys. I'm allowing them to think they're going to get that shot in. Watch this. Watch the angle. Really angle it up, and he's realizing the only way he's going to get a good angle on me is to get a flat side, and that's going to mean he's going to have to come around the corner. So as he comes around the corner, I'm going to drive towards that T110E5 and angle up hard towards his inner tracks, creates a very, very straight angle again, and we get another bounce. And this is side scraping. Oh, hello. It's a random YOLOing Batchat. Well done, my friend. Let's see if we can't blow up this E1. Oh, how about them apples? Thanks very much. This is IS-4 101. This is side scraping 101. Oh, I'm going to stick with his animation for the entire game every time I kill a tank, because we've lost two absolute heartbreakers here, and we need to get a little bit of the joie de vivre back inside the video suite. So here we go. We're pushing up now. It bears repeating, it bears noting that Leopard 1 is an absolute monster. He's got a 75% win rate, 2,500 average damage, and you're going to see the work put in here at the end makes this game awfully close. I am Bread Tank, long-time superhero on the Asia server. There's a couple of other very good players on here as well. Most notably their Grill, he was very good as well. So I am now doing the Brawl Ski, and this tank can absolutely brawl with the best of them. It's got a surprising amount of mobility for a tank this big. I'm just trying to pump in here and muzzle up with this lovely E50M, get my nose right up against it and give him as hard a possible an angle to take a shot at. Go back to the wall, don't let him get behind me. I'm ready for Iron Bread Tank as he comes around. He's moving like grease lightning. Now look at that Leopard go. Are we going to get there? Are we what? Thank you very much. And we even set him on fire. This for me is just the most fun heavy to play at this tier for this real brawly, get in their face and get angry playstyle. I love the ability of the tank to actually bounce shots in close proximity. And something else I'm doing here that you might have noticed from the last two games, I've not been at the back, but I'm now willing to spend my hit points. I've conserved those hit points this whole time, and now I'm like, that's cool, you can have a shot at me. I'm going to come out sideways as long as I get good shots at you, because I've still got 2,000 hit points, 1,600 hit points, 1,700 hit points, 1,500 now, and I can afford, can we ever afford, I can afford to lose a few and to get a few back. Now, that's the commonality really. If you're looking for that one lesson out of this, it's those three games. In all three of them, I let the game come to me. I put the tank in a really strong position for that tank, and I let the game happen around me, and I took the hit points that were on offer. And then as the game progressed, I started spending a few of those hit points that I'd saved earlier to clear tanks, to clear guns, and to make things happen. At no time was I really just sitting at the back doing nothing, but at the same time, I wasn't just YOLOing in and trying to win the game in the first minute the whole time. I was building a score. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. That last game was, I think, the best of the lot. Showed a lot of up close and personal skills against some really good opponents. And I think the IS-4 is a vastly underrated tank, despite the fact everyone loves it. It's really, really good. Till next time, look after yourselves and stay safe on the battlefield.